Hello. A few days ago I looked at various equipment which I'm planning on repairing, and that included two Digital8 camcorders. Now this one almost works. I think it may need new pinch roller. That's a minor thing. Now this one's more interesting. This is completely dead. So let's have a look at these camcorders and see what we can find out. So this is the one that more or less works, and it's charging now from this power supply, and we set that to play and it all fires up. And actually I had this playing a tape earlier, but we had a problem that when I was using it a few days ago, I found that sometimes it could damage a tape. So that's going to be a pinch roller. Now what we're really interested in is this camcorder. So this is model TRV530, and I'll plug in the power supply, which we've just tested on that one, switch it to VCR mode, try to eject the tape, absolutely nothing on the display, completely dead. There is something. I've got another similar model downstairs that takes a same battery, so that's a battery. I think there's an orange light here somewhere that's supposed to flash when it's charging, not quite sure where, and that's not flashing, so it's not charging. Oh! Is that working? It's on this battery. I don't know if there's much charge in this battery. Aha! Right. So there's a problem with this camcorder's ability to run from a mains adapter only and charge a battery. That's all that's wrong with it. Shouldn't be too serious, should it? Alright, what else have I got? This is an old scrap Hi8 camcorder which I've ripped various pieces off over the years. Come in really handy. And there's this bit at the back here, which is presumably where the battery attaches. So maybe there's some fuses on that. Let's have a look under the microscope. Oh, right. So I don't know if that means that all of F302, 306, 304, 303, 305 are all 1.4 amp. They all seem to have 14 marked on them. Okay, so they're all fuses. Now, fuses usually blow for a reason, but sometimes they just blow for the heck of it. So maybe this camcorder has a blown fuse, and if so, maybe I can replace it with one of these fuses. And it looks like they're not too hard to get to. Well, nothing's easy on a camcorder, but it's worth my taking this apart to see if it's built in the same way as that one, and if there's a fuse panel under this battery. I don't know, we'll just have to try. Alright, so take the battery out, like that. So I'll have to take out all these screws to take, from what I remember, you have to take an awful lot of the camcorder body off to get anywhere near here. Let's have a go. I'm more used to working on the models like this one, the 120, where they open the other way, so it's going to be a little voyage of discovery. It was quite hard to remove that front piece, and I managed to pull that off rather rapidly. Hopefully the cable survived. having a spot of bother getting the board out, but anyway, I can see a marker here to 3 fuses. So let's look at those and see if any of them are blown. Okay, so F2, 3 and 4 are there. Let's look at them. They're all 1.4 amp again. That one's okay. That one's okay. That one's okay. How about this 4.7 ohm resistor here? Not what I was expecting. So it works from this battery terminal, it plugs into there, but it doesn't work when the mains adapter is plugged in on the bottom part here. Let's check the condition of that socket. Terminals all look okay, don't they? There's another fuse, F401 here, which is connected directly to the charging port. I really thought that one was going to be a blown one. Well, I now have the schematics, and I can see that the route from the AC adapter should always get through to the fuses, even if the route from the battery doesn't. So that makes this situation almost impossible. And I've metered out all the connections here. Now, this is the connector on the board, and this is the connector which goes to the charging socket and also the battery. So there's a, let me show you that on the camera. There's a charging port there and the battery connections there. In fact, on my scrap camcorder, it's got a similar arrangement, albeit it was for different batteries, but same sort of general idea. You've got the charging port there and the battery connections go into a connector. So let's plug that back in again now and confirm that the charging port is definitely connected through to the fuses. So the pin in question is pin 4 on this 1, 2, 3, 4. That should be the supply from the AC adapter, and it goes through to the fuses up here. So I should be able to detect that on the charging port. And the ground from the charging port also makes it through to the camcorder. So this is illogical. I just do not understand what's going on. Now this is all in bits, and I'm not very happy about the way the memory card, this chewing gum memory card thing, has all flopped about. I've obviously undone more screws than I should have, but so I've got a lot of reassembly to do. I'm a little bit scared about this because I'm going to have to try and plug in the power supply and measure some voltages, because what I'm seeing is illogical. Power it up, and the camcorder just powered up. You can see the screen there. Okay, it's one of those faults that when you get really close to it, it runs away. Probably a connection type problem. So what I think I'll do, I mean that's good news, but I'm a bit confused. Let's wiggle things and jiggle things, make sure it stays on. It seems to be solid, doesn't it? I'll check the solder joints on that connector, and I'll check for grot on the contacts there. All seems a bit improbable, but what could it be? I've got so much reassembly to do here, and I'm very worried about this all coming apart. This card reader socket for this chewing gum type card that they used to use in the olden days. I'm going to have to try to reassemble all that. Right, I've reassembled it all. do a final test. Oh, in answer to your question, did I have any screws left over? I'll be honest with you. Yes, one. Good. And also we'll check to see that it can charge the battery, since we've had so many. Oh look, there's a screw hole there, so there we go, that's where the last screw goes. Fit that in a moment. We now have reliable operation of this camcorder. I've tried this for a significant amount of time and it's working reliably. So let's look at our other one. Now this one had the problem that it was chewing tapes at the very start of a tape. But I've tried it a couple of times and can't get it to act up. It very often is the very start of a tape if it's going to damage something, because with the best will in the world with the back tension control that video equipment in general has, it tends to be that when it's at the start of the tape, like here, this spool is rotating very slowly, so the amount of resistance it can apply can fall off, even though there is a regulator that consists of a band and an arm that swings against the tape. It can be that at the very start of the tape the tension falls off, and with low back tension is less. There's more inclination for the tape to ride up the capstan due to a poor pinch roller. So we'll test it again at the very start of this tape, and it probably will be just fine. Okay, another thing to try is picture search. Forward picture search can instigate, not normally reverse picture search, but usually forward picture search will instigate tape riding if it's going to happen. I'm going to try fast forward as well. And a nice feature of Sony camcorders, most of them, is peep search. So whilst it's fast forwarding, you can press fast forward and then it drops into picture search and you can see what's on the tape. In this case, nothing, unfortunately. We may have some Digital8 recordings on this tape. And still no problem. So what I think I'll do is, in the absence of anything better to go on, you know, in an ideal world I'd just change the pinch roller anyway, but you can't get them. The other thing you can consider doing is cleaning the pinch roller up with some platen clean or similar, and you may have seen me do this in the past. Let me show you that. So this thing is designed for printer rollers, but it can work on pinch rollers as well and get rid of a shiny surface. However, very often the problem with pinch rollers is not so much that the surface goes shiny, but that it goes out of shape. So instead of being perfectly parallel sides, it can develop a bend in one way or another on the pinch roller. And what can help is to invert the pinch roller. So I'll show you how we do that. It's quite straightforward. We'll show you on a microscope, I think. So initially I'll just take this cover off. I'll power the camcorder down so that it doesn't go in when I close that. And now we have good access to the pinch roller here. So what we need to do is remove the plastic collar from the top here. It's a little bit fiddly to get to. So what I tend to do is use a large screwdriver under the pinch roller and gently ease it up. And when it starts to come up like that, we can carefully take away this retainer without losing it. Now we can simply lift the pinch roller off, and in this case rotate it and refit the retainer. Okay, that pinch roller is fitted, and has just a little bit of end float. Perfect. So we can try that again and make sure that it's not damaging tapes. So I'll leave that machine on test for a while. That seems to be working fine. Great! That's brought 2 more Digital8 camcorders back into service. And you might wonder, why all this fascination with digital camcorders? Well, there's a good reason. Most, but not quite all, Digital8 camcorders can also play back analogue tapes, so Video8 or Hi8. And they do a pretty good job because they all include a digital time-based corrector. So in some ways, they're as good as big professional Hi8 decks. And they digitize straight to FireWire, so you have a FireWire output here. You can connect that to a computer with a FireWire input and get DV files recorded directly to your computer. They are 13 gigabytes per hour, so an extremely low compression, high quality file format. Now, there are other file formats, and I don't need to go into a great big long argument about why DV is not the best codec in the world, but for PAL tapes in particular, it does do a pretty good job. And you get results which we could describe it that the DV codec is nearly transparent as far as domestic Video8 and Hi8 tapes is concerned. You know, if you've ever seen DV cam recordings, you know, they use them for broadcast, for heaven's sake. Video8 versus DV cam, you know, the DV codec is not going to be an impediment to getting good quality recordings from Video8. Whereas capturing from an analog camcorder using one of these awful little USB devices you can buy on eBay, that doesn't give good quality results. They're heavily compressed files, sometimes less than a gigabyte per hour, really awful. So these do a pretty damn good job. Now, not, as I said, every Digital8 camcorder supports analog playback, and I'll include a link below to one of my web pages. And if you go to the bottom of the web page, it has a list of which PAL, and it does mention some of the NTSC as well, but particularly which PAL camcorders do support analog playback and so can digitize analog tapes. After some days of testing, this camcorder, which we'd had the problem with that it went dead and then it worked when I stripped it down, well, it's died again. So I've squirted the socket here with some deoxit, but that's not had any improvement. There's not a connection problem in that socket. So that's switched to VCR. It should go boing, make the startup chime. Nothing. So it looks like I'm going to have to strip it down again. It's not working and it's powered up, so this time we can check to see if there's power at the fuses. Last time when I did this there was, and then the whole machine ran anyway, so there is, but it seems very unstable. If you could see that, but it was jumping between 4.5 and 5, what was it? 4.9 and 5.5 volts. Why is it doing that? Now it's just come on. When I leaned on, it's just got up to 7 volts. When I leaned on the decoupling choke, it suddenly powered up. Then we've got 8 volts. So it either has a poor contact on that choke or a poor internal connection. Okay, well, we're closer. So everything changed when I put pressure on L401, this inductor here. And looking at the schematics, it looks like it's optional, and sometimes it's missed out. So if the worst comes to the worst, I can just replace it with some 0 ohm resistors or links. But let's see if I can work out what happens. It was when I put my meter probe on this point here that the camcorder suddenly burst into life. So either we have a bad internal connection in this inductor, or bad soldering on its pads. If I power it up now, maybe I can work out which is the case. So it's on now. If I gently push this component around, do I lose that power? Is it worth resoldering this component, or should I just bypass it? What do you think? I could just put wire links over the top. So the connections run from here to here and here to here. So actually links would go that way. So this is the input from the power supply. No, not that one. This is the input from the power supply, pin 4, and it goes to this pad, through the inductor, out to here, and then up to the fuses. And I think this is the return path. Well, I'll try resoldering it, I think, initially. Okay, I've resoldered those pins, or pads if you like. That soldering certainly looks good now. I'll just confirm it still powers up okay. Good. Right, I'm absolutely convinced that soldering is now good. So if there's any more problems with this, it'll be down to the inductor itself, in which case I'll just have to patch it out. For the time being, I'm going to assemble that and test it some more. Okay, this camcorder really is fixed this time, and even if it were to fail again, I can simply patch out that inductor and the problem will be solved. So that was a good result in the end. Please remember to like, share and especially subscribe, and I'll do a lot more content on audio and video technology in the near future. Bye for now.